In the passage of Scripture that we've just had, Paul addresses one of the best churches that we know anything about in the entire New Testament. That was the church at Philippi. He said almost nothing negative in writing to this church. He praised them for all kinds of good things. But he also gave them some very fine instruction, which we want to talk about and think about this evening. Paul says he wants you to learn to approve the things that are excellent. We use this word excellent pretty loosely today. I remember when the word awesome, for example, really meant something. And now you have awesome ice cream, and you have awesome pizza, and you have awesome almost anything that comes along. And the word really has lost its meaning. Well, to an extent, I think the same thing is true of excellent. In some ways, it's kind of lost its meaning because people have so frequently just thought in terms of everything is excellent. Really, everything's kind of average, you know. And God doesn't want you to be average. He doesn't want me to be average. He wants us to be excellent. He wants us to go beyond this. They reward and award kids in high school and kids in college with the dean's list or the honor roll, the employer or the employee rather of the month and things like this. Because the true meaning of excellence is really something that we need to learn to appreciate. Now he says, he uses the word or the translation to approve the things that are excellent. We were talking just a little bit earlier, some of us, about language and translations. Sometimes there isn't a word in one language that exactly expresses the idea in another language, and so we get different translations where there's a different emphasis that is seen. The word approve here is really the word that means to weigh something in a balance and choose the best. It isn't the idea of, yes, that's okay. It's the idea of discrimination, which is a bad word for us too, isn't it? Because we don't want to be discriminating people, but we do want to be discriminating people at the same time. Youth, for example, are called on today to make some very, very difficult decisions, I think, and we need to exemplify for them what the best decisions in life are. So one of the things that I have just never subscribed to, that it seems like sometimes parents subscribe to so well, or maybe not well is a good word here, but I am a friend to my child. I am a buddy to my little boy. No, you're his father. You're his parent. You're not his buddy. His buddies are people his age that know him more than he knows, and you're his guide. You're his mentor. You're not his buddy. You're his example. And then when kids are called on to make these kinds of decisions, because they've had this kind of guidance, somebody in their lives who is very, very close to them has been able to exemplify for them what is really superior, what really stands out, what is really lofty, and get a kid to aspire to this. You know, children are real interesting. When you convince a child that I am this way, I am that way, I can do this, I can't do that, he aspires to become what his mentor has held out for him. So it's been shown over and over and over that when a child is said, you're no good, you're a loser, you can't do this, you can't do that, you know, you're not very smart, then the child is thinking to himself, well, I guess I'm not very smart. And so why should I try? I'm a loser. But you inspire a child. You can do it. work toward it. Set goals for yourself. Become more than you think you can become. And there are all kinds of stories about how success has come about for people like that. This whole thing of becoming excellent, the whole idea of aspiring is something that's kind of lost in our age. I'm average. You're average. Almost everybody's average, you know. I heard a fellow say one time, and this is very disappointing to me, he says average is just as close to the bottom as it is to the top. That's what average kind of is, you know. It's just close to the bottom as it is to the top. Well, I don't want to be that way. I want to aspire to something that is over and beyond and have some kind of vision, not of what is, but what can be. And I think that this is the idea that Paul has in mind when he talks about learn to discriminate, learn to weigh and see what is superior. And that is the thing that you need to look forward to. That's the thing that you need to become. And then in this Philippian letter, there's just a great idea that Paul presents that, well, it's kind of hard for me to grasp, and I think it's hard for any of us to grasp, because we think of Paul as such a great man. But he says, I have not already obtained all of this. But he says, this is what I do. I haven't been made perfect. I'm not mature. But he says, I press on toward the goal under the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Isn't that great? He was a plain old guy, just like you and me. He was an ordinary man who every day got up and thought to himself, how can I be better today? How can I be a better example today? How can I live a more excellent life today than I lived yesterday? What's your goal? What's your priority? Where are you trying to head? Where am I trying to go? In school, the important thing in school is to be popular. I remember when I was in high school, we knew the girls who were popular, we knew the boys who were popular, and it seemed like the popular girls and the popular boys were always together doing popular things, I guess. And, kind of the rest of us, we weren't real popular, Well, being popular is not necessarily the greatest thing. They say most likely to succeed. Sometimes they don't end up being the most likely to succeed at all. Sometimes it's the person who is least likely to succeed who turned out to be the most important person. Another thing that all of us, I think, not just in school, but all of us through our whole lives, we want to have a lot of friends. We want to have a lot of friends. People that we can turn to, people we enjoy being with. Like to be surrounded by a lot of friends. And then there are some people who don't have very many friends. What is superior here? What is excellent here? Not the number of friends that you have. I think sometimes the prodigal son, oh man, when he was out there spending his money and all, he had all kinds of friends and buddies, and they must have just thought he was the greatest thing around and all of this. And then when his money gave out, he was friendless. So it isn't the idea of having so many friends, it's the quality of the friends that you have that really counts. Another very important goal is I want to be successful in my job. Well, now that's a very, very commendable thing. Success not for the sake of just jumping ahead or getting ahead, but success because it's fulfilling to us. It brings out the very best in us. Well, is that excellence? It ought to be. So that if you are a mechanic, be the best mechanic you can be. If you work in an office, be the best worker you can be. I think sometime about Jesus along this line. What was Jesus' occupation? Carpenter. Carpenter. Okay, I need a table. I'm going to go to a carpenter shop and get this carpenter to make me a table. You know what? My thought is that if Jesus made the table, that'd be a real good table. That'd be a real good table. I doubt very seriously, no, I don't doubt. I know good and well. He would not have painted something over, you know, to cover up a flaw. He wouldn't have hidden something so that you wouldn't see it. He wouldn't that this was this kind of table or this kind of chair or this yoke for oxen or whatever, unless it was true. Why? Because he looked for the superior. He was not going to deceive anybody. Sometimes it may cost him. And then, you know, I think along this line too, that workmanship is not always perfect. And sometimes something happens that is a perfectly innocent thing. I remember having a watch one time down in Tampa, Florida, and I had it cleaned and went and picked it up, and the next day it was not running. Wouldn't run. I took it back to the fellow that had cleaned it, and I said, you know, it's not working. And he said, oh, Mr. Burch, okay, I'll have to do it over. He says, it's going to take me about 2 weeks because I've got so much work lined up. And I said to him, that's okay. It's not a big deal. That's 2 weeks is okay. And he just relaxed like this. Like he thought I was going to get all over him, I believe. But he just relaxed and he said, Mr. Burch, I'll have it done tomorrow. Well, the idea was he wanted to do excellent work, but he also needed somebody who would encourage and help him. And so that's another aspect of this whole idea of excellence, is that by being an excellent person, by producing excellent work in our jobs, we therefore encourage other people to do better work themselves. So getting back to Jesus in the carpenter shop, if a leg broke or something like that, and lo and behold, there was a defective piece of wood, I think he stood behind his word, don't you? Yeah. Well, you know, that's just the way it is. Yeah, I'll put another leg on there for you, but I'm not responsible for the wood. I'm responsible for the workmanship. And no, I don't think he'd gotten that out of him. I think he would have stood behind the thing that he did. Jesus was not looking for loopholes to get through. He was looking for truth. He was looking for integrity. And so my guess is that in the city of Nazareth, that he had a very good reputation as a carpenter. Why? Because he weighed and compared and thought about what is superior, and that was going to characterize his life. I am going to be what God wants me to be. Well, Paul wrote some other things here to talk about this. In the 4th chapter of the book of Philippians, he says, finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything, here it is, if anything is excellent, if anything is praiseworthy, think about such things. Thoughts precede our actions. And so he says, you know, learn to appreciate these things that I'm talking about. So, just a word about each of these. Whatever is true, whatever is true, is it praiseworthy if it's true? Yes. Is it excellent if it's true? Yes. Now, the news might not be excellent for us to receive, but it's good to know that the truth is there. And so we don't lie about even the smallest things when we're looking at truth the way Paul is talking about it. In every department of my life, I need to learn the importance of telling the truth. People of integrity are in such demand now because people who do not have integrity are so abundant. And so he says, whatever is true. And then he uses the next word there. He says, whatever is noble. I kind of like that word, noble. We don't really hear it just a whole lot. Maybe it's because we don't see so many noble deeds being done. Uplifting. That which is not degrading, but that which supports and lifts up things. That which develops finer character in us. And consequently will develop finer character in other people as well. These are the things that Paul is talking about when he talks about things that are noble, not things that are degrading. Unfortunately, so many of the movies, so much of the music, so much of the entertainment is designed to have shock value. There was a comedian who was performing in Las Vegas. Two friends of mine, two ladies, and their families went to see this comedian. I happen to, this is just a coincidence, but I happen to have had the daughter of this particular comedian as a student when I was teaching at Pepperdine, and I knew something about what went on there from the things that she said. But his act was so filthy, it was so terrible, that these ladies got up and walked out. And as they walked out, he said, wait a minute, stop, where are you going? And they stopped and they said, we don't have to come here to hear this kind of trash and filth. We can hear that all day long outside. And they went on out. True story, folks. Well, the whole idea is that we need to live lives that express this excellent quality, this quality of nobility, this quality of uplifting. Paul says, if there's anything excellent here, if there's anything praiseworthy, think about these things. And then the next thing he says, whatever is right. Well, that's contrasted with wrong, isn't it? Whatever is right. Not what is convenient, not what is most profitable, not what gets me ahead, but what is right. So when I face a situation, my thought needs to be not, how do I profit from this? How can I best use this to my advantage? My primary thought is, what is right? What is fair? What is honest? What is true? And then he uses another word. The word is pure. Whatever is pure. This is from a root word in Greek that means to be holy or sanctified or set apart. They are kindred words. That which is pure. You can have a glass of water that is absolutely distilled and pure and all of that, and you put just a small drop of strychnine in it, and it becomes poison. And it's so often that a good life has just a little bit of bad coming into it that destroys its influence. I think sometime of a situation when I was in high school, and I know I've told some of you this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. I was in junior high school, and there was a little soda fountain place not about a block away from school, and some of us went over there one day and we got a milkshake, and he scooped out the ice cream and then stuck the scooper back in a little bowl there, and the little bowl full of water. The water looked real dirty because the ice cream melted off, and all this. It looked real dirty, and I thought, is that what he's scooping my ice cream with, And then of course, I didn't let that disturb me about eating the ice cream. I went ahead and had the milkshake and the ice cream and all that together. But then I noticed something. I looked back over there at that, and it was just as clear as it could be. And I thought, how'd that happen? I didn't see him empty it out, no. But then I noticed something. There's a little bitty stream of fresh water was coming into it all the time. And that little stream of fresh water displaced all of the bad-looking water. Isn't life like that? We got to keep that little stream of good things, of noble things, of lovely things, of pure things, of right things. Keep that little stream coming in. And it displaces so much in your life. It takes it away. And then he says, and I like this one, whatever things are lovely. Whatever things are lovely. Think about that. Not what things are exciting, filthy, immoral, dirty, whatever. The things that are lovely. You can see the beauty of a sunset or a sunrise or the beauty of mountains against the clouds in the sky, all kinds of things like that. And you stop and think about what a lovely sight that is. Or you can see a picture that someone has drawn that is immoral and dirty and filthy and trashy. One inspires, the other disgusts. And so Paul is saying, things that are lovely, let's think about those things. And then finally, the last one that he lists here, he says, things that are admirable. Admirable. Things that you can admire. Be with people that you can admire. Surround yourself with acquaintances and friends whom you can admire. Sometimes that's not an easy thing to do. Very frankly, that's one reason that I think that our closest friends need to be our Christian friends. The ones that we hang out with, the ones we talk to, the ones that we really enjoy, the ones that we go places with, the ones that we spend time with. Are they people that we can say, I really admire that person? Why do you admire that person? Because that person is a person of integrity, of dependability, one who sets a good example, one that I say to myself, I want to live like that person lives. Whatever is admirable. And then Paul says, after he's listed these things, he says, if there's anything excellent, or if there's anything that's praiseworthy, think about these things. This statement, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. I thought about the name of Napoleon Hill, wrote a very interesting book one time called Think and Grow Rich. And a part of that book and a part of many other books written along that line is that you can become what you think about all day. A fellow by the name of Maxwell Maltz wrote a book many years ago called Psycho-Cybernetics. And the book, this fellow was a plastic surgeon. And he had noticed something. He noticed that people whose faces were disfigured through a fire or through some tragedy or something like that, so many times these people became, in their own thoughts, they became what their face looked like. And they would withdraw themselves. And he said, you know, I found out something else. He said, I found out that when the people's appearance was restored, that their attitude also was restored. Now, he said it in a much more eloquent way than I've said it, but here's the idea. We create an image about ourselves. This is what I am. This is what I'd like to be. This is where I want to go. And he says, now, if there's anything admirable, anything praiseworthy, think about these things. So, what kind of person do you really want to be? What kind of person do I really want to be? I can be that. I'm not talking about in the world of finance, in the world of professions. I'm talking about in the world of reality of who I am and what I am. And I can become a good person. I can become a noble person, a person of purity, a person of truth and integrity, and all of these things. I can become that kind of person if I think on these things. Well, somebody says, boy, you know, that's just an impossibility for me. That's just way too far out for me. There's a poem that I just love. It's the lyrics to a song. You've heard me read it before, but it's so applicable, and it's such a beautiful poem. Probably not a masterpiece or anything like that, but it carries such a great message. It comes from the movie The Man of La Mancha, and it was. The original book was written by Cervantes back in the late the early 1600s, and it's the story of an untalented man who had this dream in his mind of being a knight errant, and he would rescue the maiden who is in trouble, and he just had all of these things put together, and. He was so naive, it seems, that he didn't recognize what his own limitations were. And this story was rewritten, and it was produced as a play, and a song that came out of that was called The Impossible Dream. And it expresses something here that I think is very important. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. To fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strove with the last ounce of his courage to reach the unreachable star. That's the challenge of thinking in terms of the excellent and the admirable. We're going to sing an invitation song. If you're out of Christ, you've never come to Him, oh, He makes great demands on you. But He gives you great blessings. He gives you hope. And if you come tonight to be baptized into Christ, you can share in that hope and become what God wants you to be. Let's stand together while we sing.